Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports, and I'm really excited to start the 2023 NBA draft cycle in terms of our scouting profiles. I had a lot of fun last year doing some for the 2022 draft class, and my plan is for this year, since we're getting started so much earlier, my plan is to cover upwards of 45 to 60 prospects with scouting profiles, which is a lot of work. There's a lot of time that goes into these videos. These are the longest videos to record on the channel, simply because I have to go through a lot of work, time, getting all the clips together, and really putting everything into place. So if you guys do enjoy, it does go a long way, showing your support with a like, and then also subscribing to the channel if you are new, so you don't miss out on more of the scouting profiles going forward. And I'm really excited here to start with Victor Wembanyama. Of course, he's a player that I think a lot of people are really excited to learn about, to watch this year as we get closer to the draft each and every day. And ultimately, if your favorite team lands him, you are in a really good scenario. Video preview, we're going to talk about a player overview, exactly who Wembanyama is, his age, his measurables, and his statistics from the most recent action we've seen of him, some of his strengths. We're going to also dive into a couple weaknesses that Victor Wembanyama has. There's not a lot. So, the weaknesses are going to be rather short, but there are some there. Then we're going to give a prospect comparison. I think this one's going to be pretty obvious who we talk about in that, but I'm actually going to talk about some of the differences between the two and why I prefer one over the other. And then a draft range. We're going to talk about where I could see Wembanyama going on draft night, where I would actually pick him in this class. Of course, it's really early on. Some players could change their stock drastically, but I think Wembanyama is a really safe player to talk about his draft range this early on in the process. So then during the draft range, I'm also going to talk about where I feel he is in terms of ranking prospects the last 5 to 10 years. And I feel very favorably about Victor Wembanyama for a good reason. So let's talk about Victor. Who is he as a player? Well, he's French. He's born on January 4th, 2004. So he will be 19 years old on the day of the NBA draft. He measures in at 7'3" or 2 meters 20. On top of that, some sources say 7'2". There's a little bit of variation here with some of the international prospects like usual. I think the biggest takeaway, he's huge, right? He's got a 7'10" wingspan, which is massive. That's 4 inches bigger than Chet Holmgren's wingspan. And his weight, there's a variety of info here as well. Some say 180 pounds. Some have him measured up at 200 pounds. I even saw one source say about 210. I don't believe that, though. Just looking at him, he is quite a bit of skin and bones right now. It's rather thin, so I would not believe 210. But I think anywhere from 180 to 200 is reasonable, just given how tall he is. So when you look at Wembanyama, let's see what he was averaging in terms of his actual play. This past year in the Turkish Airlines EuroLeague, was averaging 9.4 points per game, 5.1 rebounds a night, almost an assist per game, almost a steal per game, almost 2 blocks per game on 47% from the field, 26% from 3, 70% from the stripe, and he was averaging 18.4 minutes a game, which when you look at those numbers and you say, wow, that's what he was averaging in 18 minutes, he would have been averaging near 4 blocks a game in 36. Very impressive stuff from Wembanyama in a pro league. And let's look at what he was doing for the French national team, for the French U19 national team, that is, back in July of 2021, when we got to see a Holmgren versus Wembanyama matchup, which was must-see TV at the time. That game was awesome to watch live when I watched it. And you see what he averaged for that overall FIBA tournament. He averaged 14 points a game, 7.4 rebounds a night, 1.4 assists a game, half a steal or so, 5.7 blocks per game. You can't make that up. 5.7 blocks per game, including 8 blocks per game in the national championship game, or not the national championship game, the championship game against the USA U19 team. He had 8 blocks in that one, and he had 46% from the field, 18% from 3 only in that short amount of games, 78% from the line, though, in 22 and a half minutes a game, which makes those numbers even crazier. Think about that. He was averaging almost 6 blocks in 22 minutes. That is incredible. Victor Wembanyama's numbers are a pretty good indicator of how good of a player he is. But when you actually dive into the strengths, weaknesses, and film study, it makes your jaw drop. When I'm watching this kid, I say, oh my God, about 100 times, honestly, because you're watching him and you can't believe some of the stuff you see. Look at the picture on the graphic here. Victor Wembanyama dwarfs Chet Holmgren. He makes Holmgren look small. And Holmgren, again, was one of the biggest, lengthiest prospects in this past draft at, 7'1", 7'6" wingspan. You're like, wow, that's a really lengthy player. Wembanyama is way bigger. And for strengths, his length and size are at the forefront. You're going to see clips in here where he just makes Chet Holmgren look small, or there's just situations where he makes plays that shouldn't be possible simply because of his length and size. And again, not that length and size is the most important thing. There's a lot of players that are big and lengthy. Wembanyama uses his length to his advantage, and he uses his size to his advantage. We're going to see this in a lot of the clips here as we go throughout some of his various strengths, how he utilizes his length and size. So make sure to continue to watch for that. And we'll start with one that's really easy to see: rim protection. He protects the rim so very well in a variety of ways, and I really love what he's capable of doing. You're going to see clips where he's on the other side of the rim and then helps as a rotate guy when a guy's already going up with his shot and still swats it out of bounds off the baseline. There are moments where what Wembanyama does is unbelievable. You're watching him, you think there's no way he's going to get to that ball, and then he does. And your jaw just drops. You can't believe what you are watching. You're also going to see in clips where Victor Wembanyama rotates as the help guy, stands up the penetrator, and then recovers back to his and gets a block. Again, this is incredible stuff that you just do not see from 18-year-olds. First of all, he plays with a great sense of anticipation and understanding. He has a good feel for the game in terms of knowing where his own matchup is, but also the right degree of, hey, how much do I need to help here? Do I need to rotate a little bit further up? How much do I need to take my own guy here? He does a great job of all of that and has a very good cerebral understanding of help defense. And that is a huge element to becoming an anchor in the NBA defensively. And I really believe that Victor Wembanyama has everything you need in terms of being a anchor defender for an NBA team. Again, he's not the biggest guy in terms of his strength, but when you look at his length, size, and his understanding of where to position himself defensively as a rim protector, it really doesn't get much better than this. You can look at him and say, wow, he's kind of like a Rudy Gobert. And it's kind of funny. We're going to have a Stifle Tower 2.0 coming out of France with Victor Wembanyama. This kid is really, really special. And his rim protection skill set, I mean, you're going to see it in a lot of these clips. Just his timing, his ability to swat the ball off the glass, his ability to swat the ball out of bounds. There's plays where he absorbs contact and still is able to block your shot. And he doesn't just tap it lightly. He swats it. He sends that shot 10 to 15 feet away from where you started it. And it's incredible. When you watch this kid play, again, I keep saying it, but your jaw will drop. You can't believe some of the stuff you are seeing on the court. And it also plays into his defensive mobility. For a player this big, I'm going to pull out a Joe Douglas quote here. A player that big should not be able to be that nimble. And he is very nimble. He's got really good lateral mobility to him. Now, with how big and lengthy he looks, sometimes he looks a little silly on the perimeter, especially when he gets danced on a little bit by a pretty good smaller ball handler. But with how big and lengthy he is and his timing and his ability to recover to the rim, those players who make him look silly 18 feet away from the hoop end up being the ones who look silly at the rim when Wembanyama erases their shot from behind. The defensive mobility, he's not Evan Mobley. He's not going to stay in front of guys as well as Evan Mobley does. But he's a lot lengthier than Evan Mobley, and he's a better shot blocker than Evan Mobley around the glass, which is going to keep him alive out on the perimeter. And I think he's going to become one of the better all-around defenders in the league, not just as a help defender or an anchor defender or somebody who you probably utilize in drop coverage. I think he's talented enough to go out and tag in space. Now, would I want him guarding perimeter players all the time? No, I think that's not really his strongest skill set. But I think that if you want him to, or you need him to in specific situations, say you're playing Steph Curry and you say, hey, we're not going to let you play drop coverage against Steph. We want you to take up on the screen. I think he's capable of doing that. And for a player as big and lengthy as him, it is really rare to have somebody at 7'3" be able to play comfortably 20 to 25 feet away from the rim and still recover, make plays, and be a deterrent around the rack, which I think is everything you're looking for. I mean, in these clips, you're going to see a lot of times where he's able to recover, swats the shot off the glass, and again, you're just in awe with what you're seeing from Victor Wembanyama on a play-in, play-out basis. Then we go on to his downhill fluidity, and here I'm talking more so offensively. We got to see his lateral mobility and how well he moves. Now let's take a look at the downhill fluidity. As a roll man, he's going to be very, very good. He's got a really good sense of the pick and roll game already from the roll standpoint. When you look at his capability here, you're going to see him when he does make contact, he finds good opportunities to roll. And when he rolls into open space, you're in trouble. He's got very good hands. I think that's an underrated aspect of his game as well that people aren't going to talk about enough. His ability to catch passes in a variety of angles at a variety of different areas on his body, whether it's out in front of him, right on his hip, up above his head. He's very capable of using his hands to go get the basketball, which is a really important skill set actually for players as big and lengthy as him. Coordination does not come easy, but Wembanyama has it. And I think that's going to be really vital for him. You're going to see some of the passes he's able to catch. And then let's look at certain situations where he doesn't even connect on a screen. He's got a really great sense of understanding on how to slip screens. Even when he misses contact or, a defender goes over the top of his screen, he knows that his defender's probably hedging to a certain extent. So if he rolls quickly and slips out of there, which he does on multiple occasions, he's going to find a lot of open space between him and the rack. And when he does that, he's going to finish, because if you're rotating a smaller defender to help off of Wembanyama, well, you're at a point where you're probably going to get dunked on, even if he's at a spot where it doesn't look like he should be able to dunk from. There's a variety of plays here too, where you're going to see him catch the ball outside of the restricted area and execute a standing dunk. That's right, a standing dunk from outside of the restricted area. That is unimaginable. He is dunking the ball from multiple feet away from the rim without a running start or without, any real forward momentum, and he's dunking on top of somebody. That's incredible. I can't emphasize enough how incredible Victor Wembanyama is in terms of the stuff that he's able to execute. He's also got really great transition play. He runs the floor well. He's able to find open areas on the court when he's attacking the rim without the ball in his hands. And he's very quick and speedy for a player as big as him. Now, is he the fastest player in the world? No, but at 7'3", you don't have to be, but he's pretty quick still, even at that height. And you're also going to see a play here where he catches out of the corner, attacks a closeout, and punishes help defenders by dunking all over them. Again, that's a play you just do not expect to see from someone who is 7'3". His all-around skill set, his ability to finish through and around contact at the rim, his ability to avoid contact just by simply being bigger and dunking over them is incredible. And his feel as a pick and roll guy is great. You just can't make a player like Victor Wembanyama. Even if you went into NBA 2K right now and tried to make a 7'3" big like him, you're going to have to sacrifice some of the stuff that Wembanyama is ultimately going to become really good at the NBA level, which is now a great time to talk about his rebounding. At 7'3" and rather light, you think, okay, maybe this guy gets moved really easily. And sometimes, yes, he does. But even when he does, he's still so big and lengthy that he's able to grab rebounds over the top of guys. You're going to see a couple of clips here where he's getting some putback dunks over Chet Holmgren. And you're just like, wow, that's the guy that just went second overall in this past draft. And Wembanyama's kind of owning him, which was the theme in that championship game for FIBA U19. Victor Wembanyama took Chet Holmgren's lunch money. And I think that game was really clear in crystallizing the fact that Victor Wembanyama was the best prospect in the world at the time. Even though he was 18 months younger than Chet Holmgren, he was far better than Holmgren on that day and really solidified himself again as probably one of the most intriguing, most unique prospects the world has ever seen, which is what's going to lead us to his potential here. You're going to see some clips in here of him working against Rudy Gobert in just a little light one-on-one session. And some of the stuff that Wembanyama is executing in terms of between the leg dribbles, pull-up jumpers in the mid-range area, it's stuff that you can't make up. This is something that 30, 40 years ago, you would have thought was a myth. Wembanyama is a player that is inconceivable in terms of his actual size, skill set that he possesses, And I think the biggest thing for him is bringing it all together and tying it all into one. Earlier we talked about the statistics. Yes, he shot 18% from three in FIBA U19 play. He shot only about 26% from three this past season in the EuroLeague. And there's going to be some doubters. There's going to be some red flags there. Think about it this way. A lot of modern NBA bigs didn't shoot the three ball in college at all. And then they slowly progressed that area. The fact that Wembanyama is even confident enough to shoot the ball and is shooting at somewhat of a respectable clip, not a great clip, but respectable. You have to at least put a hand up on him out there. It shows that he's got these skills that at some point he will develop as a three-point shooter and really become that all-around offensive force that is unmatched in the NBA in a lot of ways. There's not 7'3" guys who can do what he does. You think about the guys that are comparisons for him. You think maybe Kristaps Porzingis, maybe Rudy Gobert. To be a blend of those two means you're an incredible player. And the potential's there. Look at the image on the screen here. He's standing over a guy and just shooting over him. What kind of contest is that? The player has his hand up and Wembanyama doesn't even see him. And that's where some of the potential is. At his size, his jump shot's going to be uncontestable. And it's not a question of if, it's a matter of when his jump shot starts to fall reliably. He will become so incredibly dominant that you just can't even believe it. There's clips in here where you're going to see him hit a step back mid-range jump shot over Patrick Baldwin. And then a few plays later, you're going to see him knock down a huge pick and pop three-pointer for Team France. When they took on the Team USA, yes, they lost, but Wembanyama was clearly the best player on the floor, and he was facing multiple lottery-level players in this past draft and other players at the collegiate level who are really good college players. And Wembanyama, literally and figuratively was head and shoulders above the rest of them. When we look at some of his weaknesses, I think one of those, and it stood out in that championship game, and I think it's going to be a question for a lot of GMs if they're going to draft him and play him as a full-time center, is what's his post-up physicality? How's he going to deal with that? And Kenneth Lofton dominated him in FIBA U19 play. You're going to see a couple clips in here where he gets an isolation on the left corner and is able to back him down and finish the play around the rim. And it looks like Wembanyama is not even a physical match for Kenneth Lofton, who went undrafted in this past draft class, which is funny because we saw Kenneth Lofton do that to Chet Holmgren in the summer league a little bit. That's what Kenneth Lofton does. That's his game. And Wembanyama, like Chet Holmgren, struggled with that a little bit because of their size and strength. They're a little bbit undersized in terms of the weight department to a player who's as big and bulky as a Kenneth Lofton. You're going to see another play too where catches a pass from Jaden Ivey, able to take it right to the chest of Wembanyama, knock him off balance, get his own miss, and then put it back in because Wembanyama is knocked back and off balance. So that's going to be a big question. How does he match up with the Joel Embiids, Nikola Jokic's of the world? My answer to that is, even if he doesn't match up well, who in the NBA right now does? Those two players are two of the most dominant big men in the league, and pretty much nobody in the world is stopping those two players one-on-one. Is it really fair to criticize the best player in this class by saying, oh, well, he can't guard Joel Embiid one-on-one? Really, nobody can. So I don't want to, dive into that too much. I don't think that post-up play is going to be the end of the world. A lot of teams don't even utilize post-up play, especially when it comes to winning championships, winning in the postseason. We see that play style fade a little bit. And I don't think Wembanyama is going to be exploited too frequently, especially since you can build a good team defense identity around, certain matchups like that if you need to. Then when it comes to another weakness, and this is his passing, and this is where we get into a comparison with Chet Holmgren. He's not as much of a live dribble passer like we saw Holmgren could do at Gonzaga this past year. Wembanyama, a little bit blockier, a little bit less of a live dribble type player, and that's okay. It's not like this is a glaring weakness, and it's not like this is something that's going to really limit who he becomes. I still think there's potential for him to grow here. Just right now, I don't think he's an NBA level passer in terms of, he's not going to be a great passer at the NBA. I think he's requisite. I don't think he's going to be a terrible passer. But in comparison to every other element of his game, passing is an area that I think needs to come along a little bit to make him a bit better prospect in terms of what he's going to be capable of as a lead dog at the NBA level. So let's get into a prospect comparison here. And you guys guessed it, it's Chet Holmgren. But Victor Wembanyama is not just Chet Holmgren. He's Chet Holmgren plus. He's the premium version. He is a way better player than Chet Holmgren. And you guys know I like Chet Holmgren. I had Chet Holmgren number 2 on my big board in this past draft class, and I feel really good about that. I still do. But Wembanyama, I think, is, again, figuratively and literally head and shoulders above Chet Holmgren. He's bigger, he's taller, he's arguably just as quick. He's probably a little bit better as a rim protector, and that's not even probably. He just flat out is. I think he's a better defender all in all. I think he's a better offensive rebounder. I think he plays a little bit stronger. I think his length is a little bit more overwhelming. The only thing he doesn't do as well as Chet, I think offensively he's a little less skilled than Chet, but I think he's got a little bit more tenacity to him. Chet, I think, had a better live dribble, a little bit better passer, and I think was a little bit better of a three-point shooter. I think those things were all clear. Chet was really good in all of those areas offensively. Wembanyama, I think, is a little bit more raw. Now, part of this, too, is he is 18 months younger. This next season, again, I'm recording this before he plays the season before the NBA draft. So there's a lot of room and time for him to grow yet. But as of right now, I think Chet was a little bit further in his development offensively than Wembanyama currently is. But Victor is such an intriguing, talented player that you can't even imagine him not being able to grow into some of those areas. And for the draft range, I think this was what everyone knew was going to be here. Expected, he's going to go first overall. There's no way a team passes on Victor Wembanyama. I don't care if Scoot Henderson averages 28 points a game in the G League this next year, which I don't think he will, but I don't even care if he did. Victor Wembanyama is going to be the first overall pick. A GM sitting in that chair is not going to pass on 7'3" freak athlete who dominated Chet Holmgren in the U19 World Cup. That's just not going to happen. And my range as well, he's the best player in this class. There's not any argument to that. It's good that he's wearing number 1 on that jersey. He's got to get used to that. He's going to be the first overall pick. He's going to be the best player from his class. And when it's all said and done, could be one of the best prospects we've ever seen. For Victor Wembanyama, in comparison to all of the past prospects, last 5-10 years, I think there's really only one that I viewed in a light similar to Wembanyama, and that was Luka Doncic. I looked at Luka as a generational floor general who could elevate the play of his teammates, but also score the ball when needed. And his scoring's actually been a little bit better than I expected for Luka Doncic. I think, I looked at Luka as a player who probably would be play make first, score second, great at both. He's actually been score first, play make second, great at both. I think Wembanyama is going to be great at a lot of things. He's going to be able to defend. He's an anchor. He's able to take out in space, which is really rare to have an anchor who can also do that effectively. And I think also he's going to impact winning in a lot of ways. When it comes to rebounding, he's going to hit the offensive glass well. He's going to rebound well defensively. He's going to be positioned well at all times. He's going to be a great screen and roll guy, which is going to open up the floor for the guards on his team. Victor Wembanyama is going to be invaluable to an NBA franchise. If your team is tanking, you better have your fingers crossed all year long and never uncross them, because you're going to need some massive luck to land Victor Wembanyama, the clear, obvious, heir apparent number 1 overall pick. I'm so excited to watch him play in the NBA. I think he's going to be must-see TV for every single second he's on the floor. Wembanyama, such a special young player, and I think is honestly going to change the course of NBA history with his ability. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to be a high impact guy at the NBA level. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you did enjoy. Again, a lot of work goes into it, so leave a like, subscribe as well to the channel for more NBA draft content. We are going to be covering so many 2023 NBA draft prospects. At the time you're watching this, I'm probably out in Las Vegas right now watching NBA Summer League from the 2022 draft class. So excited to be around the game as much as I am. So stay here for more NBA content. Subscribe. Go check out some of the other videos. Thanks again. Leave a like, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.